All right. So, like I said, my name is Mark. I work on the community team with GrownBy and Farm Generations Co-op. I use he/him pronouns. I live in upstate New York, and I dabble in a lot of different farming things. Currently not a whole lot right now, but I'm working on getting a nursery started. Just to give you some framework of who I am and what I'm about. At this point, we're probably all pretty good at using video, doing video meetings, but just so you know, our general rules, if you can put your camera on, that's great. Off is okay. Like I said, we're recording, so if you don't want to be recorded, that's totally fine, but it really helps to, provide an actual circle workshop type of environment if we can see each other. We are also going to aim to end on time at 8:30, but we will be able to stay for a little while longer if you have extra questions, you want to chat, hang out. So keep that in mind. We would appreciate it if you use the chat feature or the raise hand feature for asking questions. That way I can refer those questions to Varick or Lindsey and BR as it's appropriate. And that's pretty much it for housekeeping. I'm going to circle around to introduce the rest of the Farm Generations staff who are on the call. So it's hard for me to tell. Eric, if you're here, would you like to introduce yourself?
I sure am. Hey, everyone. My name is Eric Sandard. I'm the National Co-op Organizing Lead for Farm Generations Cooperative and GrownBy. And I'm here in central Minnesota, where my wife and I grow flowers. And we're expecting a nice -2 tonight. And so I'm going to be off cam. I'll mute. I'll be copying your messages and questions and getting them into a question doc that all of our presenters can see. So don't worry about that. But I'm going to be off camera and muted, because I might be jumping back and forth between the greenhouse and inside here. So thank you all for being here, and I'm looking forward to seeing the presentation.
Thanks, Eric. Spoiler alert, I'm going to ask all of you folks who are attending to also introduce yourselves, but again in the chat. So I'm going to just post a prompt here with what we'd like you to introduce, if you feel comfortable. And while you guys are doing that, Lindsey and BR, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hi there, I'm Lindsey Lesher-Shute, and I am here presenting with my family about our farm experience and GrownBy. I am also a co-founder of GrownBy and serving as CEO of the co-op. So it's been an interesting journey, having been the primary person on our farm team, sort of doing GrownBy, and now it's Varick and in particular, and also BR really at the reins. So I act more I would say more like a staff member at GrownBy with our farm, receiving feedback all the time, and trying to make improvements as we can for all of you. So I'm Lindsey, and
I'm BR Shute. I use he/him pronouns. I founded Hearty Roots Farm here in Claremont, New York, almost 20 years ago. And yeah, I'll look forward to sharing a little bit more about the farm and our experience with you in this presentation.
And I use she, her pronouns. Sorry, forgot that part. Varick?
Yeah, I'm Varick Shute. I'm BR's sister. I started working for the farm just a little over a year ago, and I now, yes, I manage our CSA memberships and sales, and I am the primary GrownBy person since I came on. So yes, I mean, Lindsey still does a lot and helps me with a lot, but I will be talking about the GrownBy nitty-gritty for our farm today.
Thanks, gang. Again, I'll invite all of you folks to introduce yourselves to the rest of the group through the chat as we go along. We're of course curious about your name and your pronouns, but also where you are in the country, what you're growing, and how you're generally trying to sell stuff. Is it like CSA? Are you doing farmers markets, etc.? And if you're using an online platform, or if you have before, if you have, we're curious to know which one you're using. And there's a prompt in the chat. I'm not. I'll just post it in there again, just in case anybody missed it the first time. And we'll get to questions. In fact, if folks have questions as like I said, as we're going, just throw them up in the chat or use the raise hand. Eric's keeping an eye on them. But I think we should probably dig right in to the presentation, which I believe is going to start with BR.
Great. Yeah, so I just want to give you some background on our farm and just what we do in general. So we're Hearty Roots Community Farm here in Claremont, New York, about 100 miles north of New York City. We're in the Hudson Valley. Hudson River's a couple miles to our west. Currently, so we started out really small, like along, almost 20 years ago, renting land, like a very small farm. But now we, over the years, we've made a lot of progress. We own our 70-acre home farm now. We also rent 50 acres up the road. We grow about 25 acres of vegetables a year, certified organic, and we have about, in the summer, 2,000 laying hens. We have a really small flock of sheep that are maybe about to start lambing, and we raise some feeder pigs in the summer. And the main thing we do is CSA, and that has been the case for the whole time the farm has existed. We started out small, just with like 30 CSA members the first year, way back, and ever since then, we have prioritized CSA as our like main way we do business. And if you go to the next slide, I can kind of give you some more details. The CSA for us, it's how we got the farm started. We were able to, have members pay up front that first year and afford to buy seeds and an Earthwave little seeder, and we had a handshake deal on some land 5 miles away, and CSA is how we got started. And many years later, it's still the most important part of our operation. All of our pork and chicken, most of our eggs, and most of our vegetables go to the CSA. It's about 50% of our business in terms of revenue. And now, ever since COVID, our retail farm store that's here at the farm has been a big part of our operation as well. It wasn't at first, but then when people, all of a sudden during COVID, everyone was interested in that, and so it's a pretty big part of our operation. But that 40% of our revenue, like we sell other people's stuff as well. So there's quite a bit of revenue that we get from that's selling other local farmers' fruit and dairy and bread and things like that. So in terms of our actual growing and farming operations, way more than 50% of that is for our CSA. And we have a crew that ranges between like 10 and 18 people, depending on time of year. We have about 1,000 families that are members of our CSA, and we have locations to pick up both here in the Hudson Valley and also down in New York City. And we are year-round. We have a main CSA season from June through October. We have a Thanksgiving share that we do, a big share that we do in November, and then we have a winter share from December through April. So May is actually the only month we don't have CSA, except this year, actually, May 31st is our first distribution. And yeah, we have the farm store as well. And we do a couple of like wholesale and other enterprises to kind of round out like smooth out like the harvests and things like that. Local Produce Link is a program funded by New York State Department of Health, where we're paid to on contract to grow 2,200 pounds a week of produce from June to November for food pantries in New York City. And that basically enables us to, it complements the CSA because it enables us to grow a lot of certain things and kind of balance things out. So you can go to the next slide. So our CSA, we offer weekly or biweekly shares. In the winter, it's just biweekly. Most of our locations are now farm stand style, where people, gather their own shares, like, a pound of carrots and 2 heads of lettuce and all that stuff. They're out in individual boxes and they gather their shares. During COVID, some of our CSA pickup location, or pretty much all of our CSA pickup locations, we had to box the shares. Most of our sites have now gone back to the farm stand style shares, but there's a couple that are still doing the boxed shares, pre-boxed. And yeah, as we've kind of grown as a farm, we leveled out our vegetable production a while ago, and we've kind of been adding enterprises to try and make the CSA more exciting for our members. So adding eggs, then adding our own meat, and we also offer fruit and cheese from other farmers that we deliver to our members. Varick, I forget, am I doing more slides than this, or is that it?
Yeah, the next one about pre-GrownBy software.
Yeah. So CSA, back in the early days, we were doing everything, of course, just on our own with signups and managing those through members would just pay by check. And I don't think we offered really payment plans too much at that time. In New York City, we used the organization Just Food. They were really active in New York City at that time. And their model is the core group model. So we had independent kind of core groups at different neighborhoods in the city who really did a lot of the legwork and organizing and outreach within those neighborhoods. And actually at that time, they were actually collecting payments from members. So we have a neighborhood that we serve in Bay Ridge in Brooklyn, and they established the Bay Ridge CSA. And they did outreach in their community. They collected all the payments and they cut the farm 2 checks over the course of the season. And we really, we were very involved. We brought the vegetables down. We kind of saw the members. We were really connected with the core group. We sent a newsletter, but we weren't the ones doing that administration of the membership. As time went by, we started using some software for some of those sites. So it kind of crept in, and at first, maybe some of our membership was still managed by core groups, and some of it we were doing ourselves. We started using Farmigo, and that was okay. It was kind of going along fine. Some members liked it, but then in about 2014, Farmigo, which was just doing CSA member management, all of a sudden they added this enterprise to their business. They raised $19 million from venture capitalists and started a food aggregation business. And so they were basically doing CSA by sourcing from multiple farms and trying to sell to people and on their own, in addition to managing our CSA members. And they were doing that within blocks of our sites in New York City, and they had access to all of our member data. And so that was really terrible. And I couldn't believe it. So I was really mad at Farmigo. They since have, I don't know, they burned through that $19 million and dropped that part of their business because it failed. And they're still doing CSA management, which is appalling. Anyway, I got as far away as I could from Farmigo, and I switched to CSA Ware, which was slightly like more clunky software, but wasn't trying to compete with me for my customers. And it was kind of good. It had a lot of different functionality, serving a lot of different customers. Some of it was kind of smooth, some of it was not so smooth. The learning curve for me as a farmer was kind of steep, because I kind of constantly needed like hand holding from their tech support people and stuff. And it was just it was okay, but it was I had the same feeling as with Farmigo. Like, it's this kind of company doing this, as a kind of profit-making enterprise. They have my data. They're like, I don't know if they go out of business anytime or like sell to someone or whatever. There was always just something that kind of bothered me about that. So then when the opportunity came to do GrownBy, that was obviously really awesome. It's farmer owned. I'm a farmer owner. It's a cooperative. And the whole thing, its whole reason for existing is to serve farmers and to make us able to sell more efficiently and better for our customers and CSA members. And so here we are. And when it's really enabled me. So the whole time we've done CSA, what I've loved about CSA is that it's really convenient and allows efficiencies for the farmer. We can plan ahead. Our stuff is pre-sold. Like, I always tell people, if I was doing farmers markets, I'd be filling up the truck on 3 a.m. on Saturday morning and driving down to the market. And maybe if it rained that day, I'd be driving back at 8 p.m. half full. My truck's still half full of stuff, right? But with CSA, all that stuff is pre-sold. I still have to leave at 3 in the morning on Saturday, but I'm back at 2 p.m. and the truck's empty. So CSA is really great because it allows the farmer to be efficient and to plan ahead and to have this direct connection to the customers. But for customers, some customers, it kind of requires the customer to like make some, make a commitment and to kind of give up a little bit of flexibility and things like that some people are really used to. Especially now that like anything can be delivered anytime, stuff like that. So what I'm really happy about is that GrownBy so what I'm always looking for is ways to keep that efficiency of CSA, but also enable members to have more flexibility, more choice, and things like that, to give them the best experience that they can have, as long as it's not causing me too many headaches. Because if I have to manage too much craziness and changing schedules and all that thing, then it makes it more work and it costs more and the CSA costs more. And GrownBy has been really good for us because it can provide our CSA members with that flexibility, with a better experience. Right now, we offer vacation weeks, so members can put their share on hold during the season at their leisure, and they go into their GrownBy account and they click the dates that they aren't going to be able to pick up. And that sounds like that would have been a nightmare in 2005 for me to manage, like try and figure out who's picking up this week, who's not. But in CSA in GrownBy, it's totally easy because like my overall numbers from week to week don't fluctuate more than by a few shares a week. But GrownBy, figures out who's taking a vacation. It puts together the whole membership list for that week. It tells me what to harvest, and I don't have to worry about any of it. So I think our members are really having a better experience. They have more flexibility, and And for me, it's really no more work than when I was doing it, 20 years ago. So that's been great for me. And I think a lot of people, sometimes people in the CSA movement, like they say, oh, maybe like CSA is, losing popularity and things like that because people have more choices. But we've still seen really strong member attention. And I think the key to that has been, providing members where we can more flexibility and a better experience through that. So, yeah.
All right, I think it's my turn. So you said about all that we could say about the start of GrownBy. I'll just say that BR and I were co-founders of the National Young Farmers Coalition, and I was executive director there for about 10 years. And this situation with Farmigo and other online platforms serving farmers really got going while I was at Young Farmers Coalition. And it wasn't just our farm that was experiencing this concern and feeling like there was new risk with new software serving farmers, but maybe not, or really serving their own interests above what farmers needed. So the coalition, we actually interviewed farmers all across the country and asked them, like, how can we help? And it turned out that what we were experiencing on our own farm was reflected across the country. And we decided that building tech and actually having that tech borrow the cooperative model that's been so foundational for farms for 100 years plus, that would be a really amazing combination. So Young Farmers Coalition essentially incubated the Farm Generations Cooperative, and then we spun off in 2019. We've just released version 3.1.5. If you were keeping track, a lot has changed, and it's been really exciting to see us come from really sort of basic setup to something that has really helped our farm and other farms advance. And I think that one thing that you said, BR, that is just so key is providing a really amazing customer experience is so critical. And that is something that we are always trying to balance, like, providing excellent software for the shopper, getting through from finding your farm, selecting produce and checking out, but also our farms, which have very complex models and very different models. So GrownBy is unique, as I was saying, because it is owned by the Farm Generations Cooperative. Farm Generations is like the underlying business that owns GrownBy, and any farm that makes a sale on GrownBy is eligible to then buy a member owner share. When you become a member owner, then you actually get to attend our annual member meeting and vote on big co-op decisions. You can run for our board of directors. And at some point when we reach profitability, the idea is that you would receive a dividend, a patronage dividend. So you actually, some of the money that 2% that is paid into the co-op, the goal is that some of that comes back to the farms at some point. So our entire goal is to make farms more profitable and viable as the digital economy takes hold and grows every day. I mean, certainly during the pandemic, I think every farm was like, oh wow, I need to be selling online, and that continues to increase. So Farm Generations is really, as I see it, our opportunity to be part of that and really have leadership in the future of this movement as more of it goes online. Your turn, Varick.
Great, sure. Yeah, so I'm going to just talk a little bit about, sort of give some examples of all the things that BR and Lindsey just talked about and how it actually sort of comes to play in our GrownBy shop and on the back end, and basically just how we use GrownBy, like our favorite features, to help us manage all of these different sites and places. So Mark, you can go to the next slide. So this just is a quick overview. This is what, if you're not familiar with GrownBy from the customer side, on the left is sort of our landing page for our farm. The right is the actual shop page. You can sort of see, it's a little small, I know. We have our Hudson Valley CSA, we have our Brooklyn CSA, we have the Upper West Side CSA. It's all broken down regionally. You can go to the next slide. And one of the, and then this is, this is the example of how the Brooklyn CSA is set up. So you have your primary share options, your add-on shares, we have membership fees for our city locations. But that's just like a quick overview of how it looks on the customer side. So next slide, as BR was talking about and Lindsey was talking about, this flexibility is so crucial. In the overview, as BR suggested, let me go back. We have 5 different locations in the Hudson Valley. We have 3 locations in Brooklyn, one of which has 2 different days of pickup. We have our Manhattan location. So we have them set up sort of regionally. And we have, all of our, you can see here, like if you were buying a share, this is what would happen. And you get a pop-up, you pick your location of where you would want your default pickup to be. But one of the great things that GrownBy lets us do is, because we have all of the pickup locations connected through the broader CSA umbrella, our members, once they have a member account, can then they can switch a location for a week. They can take a vacation the way that BR was talking about if they need to skip it for a week. If we go to the next slide, you can see that there are options. Like the user can just go in, they can say, I want to reschedule. They just have to give us a few days notice, and we as the farmer can set how many days, what that cutoff window is. They can switch to a different location. So, if somebody picks up usually in Kingston, but they want to visit the farm one weekend to visit our Pick Your Own Garden and come to our market, they can go in and just swap that 1 week over, and we don't need to even be contacted. And then GrownBy will automatically, the harvest list, the location summary, it breaks everything down by location and by date. We are told by GrownBy exactly how many shares need to go to each location on each day. We get the sign-in sheet is automatically updated. They're moved over to the new site for that 1 week. You can generate the emails for that site because we send out emails to our members telling them what's going to be in their share. So if you've moved from Kingston to the farm 1 week, you're not going to get the Kingston email, you're going to get the farm email. And we don't have to micromanage all of that. It's just GrownBy handles it, and it just spits out the final details to us. So that's incredibly helpful. And the vacation weeks are the same type of situation. And then another wonderful thing about GrownBy, they have a really responsive support team and development team. I know I have particularly good access to the support team. I do have direct access, maybe, but even regardless, they are incredibly responsive. And it also goes back to the whole, again, with the cooperative model, and that it's farmer owned and farmer driven, and it's built for farmers by farmers. So many, the team is constantly creating new tools and features that are based on their user feedback and desires and needs. So this is just a few examples of the features that came up in the 3.0 launch that are things that, Lindsey and I talked about last year, about things that would be great to see. And at 3.0, they were all there. So there's an option for digital products. We have membership fees for our city locations. And, last year they had to be treated like an actual item that was like a physical deliverable that had a pickup date associated with it, which caused a little bit of just complication. And now there's a digital product doesn't have a pickup date. You're not going to get a notification that's like, you have a pickup tomorrow for your Bay Ridge membership fee or something. So that's awesome. There's a new custom schedule developer. We don't do too many of those, but when we do, there's a multi-date picker. So you could just set up exactly what schedule somebody needs. There are product templates to streamline the whole setup process so that we have all of these different iterations of our vegetable shares and our egg shares, and you can create sort of a big product template for vegetable shares, and it'll auto-populate down, and then you can tweak them as needed. So there's just lots of things. There are more features rolling out that, again, are all based on requests. It's like farmers talk to them and they're like, it would be awesome to do this. And they're like, great, we're going to see if we can do that. And then they do it. So that's a really nice, and in my personal experience, is unusual for my interactions with tech companies and the products I use in other contexts. So And then, yeah, another great thing that GrownBy just sort of takes a lot of the administrative burden off of are a lot of the payment options. There's there's a lot of flexibility there too for the farmer. You can opt in or out of certain things. We opt in to let our members pay on monthly installment plans, and then GrownBy handles the recurring charges and does the math, and it's all taken care of. And then it automatically, you know, if we're not sold out and we're still accepting signups after a season has started, GrownBy automatically prorates the price based on the time that has elapsed, and we'll do that for the monthly installments too. And you don't have to do the math yourself. Everything's calculated. There's a new feature to let members cover the transaction fees when they're checking out, which is awesome. And it'll also apply it if they're doing monthly payments. They have the option to say, I want all of my automatic future payments to also cover the fees. So that's a great thing because those fees can really, really add up. That's huge. And then when BR referenced the farm credit we primarily use farm credit often with those vacation weeks that were mentioned, where if you give us notice, you can skip a week's share and then you get a farm credit for the value of that week's share, which can be put towards your next CSA purchase or your next installment payment. You could also use it though, you can manually add it for other reasons. People can buy credit for their own account. People could buy farm credit for somebody else as like a, you know, almost use it like a gift certificate. So there's just lots of, again, there's lots of ways that you can make GrownBy work for like whatever you kind of want it to do. And then when, you know, even though all these wonderful tools and features are being rolled out, sometimes you have like quirky needs that aren't going to be worth actually having a custom tool sort of, or a new tool built for everybody, but you can like that customization of the availability of the customization within the products and within all of these different features means you can like make it work for things you might want to do. So one example is I'm actually based primarily in Brooklyn. And you know, I'm on the farm regularly, but not every day. And we have certain special cases where we want to sort of switch locations. So for example, you know, Sarah in Brooklyn is going to be spending a long weekend in the Hudson Valley and wants to pick up her share that weekend on the farm, not in Brooklyn. She doesn't want to cancel her share. She doesn't want a vacation week, but her scheduler won't let her do that because the Hudson Valley CSA and the Brooklyn CSA are different. So one version of how we do that is that I call BR or I email him and I'm like, hey, can you just remember to hold a share and then like scratch her name out on the sign-in sheet and make a note that she's going to pick it up at a different time and place, which is an unreliable method. So instead we created a $0 product that like is a rescheduled share. So she emails me, I don't even have to bother BR about it. I just am like, great, I'll cancel her share for that week in Brooklyn. I'm going to put this rescheduled product in her account, sign her up for this rescheduled share. It now shows up. Her share is going to show up on BR's harvest list and packing list for the Hudson Valley for that week, not in Brooklyn. She's on the sign-in sheet. She's like, it's just, again, you don't have to like think about it or, you know, try to make all these special accommodations. So again, there's just like lots of options to sort of make it work for yourself. I think, oh yeah, so this is just sort of summarizing again the all these great things. I just wanted to give a quick overview, and then the GrownBy team asked me to talk about both pros and cons. So on the right are a few things that I can't even really call cons because half of them I'm pretty sure are in the works to be provided. And they're also minor compared to the positives, but there's just, you know, we're hoping to like, there's some options to have private items so that you could process orders without something being publicly listed in the shop. We have some tricky things sometimes with the sign-in sheets, but it's mostly based on our city sites are volunteer driven. And sometimes, you know, you have a volunteer who doesn't have experience with having done that before, and they don't notice that somebody has 2 egg shares instead of 1 or something. So things can get a little confusing, and that's one of those cases where it's impossible to have everything be perfect in every situation. There's always going to be some tech difficulties. Some people are not great with technology. Always going to happen. It happens less and less. I hear about it less and less with every like release of updates. And if somebody just isn't going to, some people aren't going to like online ordering, and then it's very easy to process their order for them, and then they can send us a check. And then there's the last bullet point is basically just like a quick tip for anybody who's setting up their shop. If So the shop defaults to alphabetical, and sometimes if you're obsessive like me and you want things like the weekly options to come up before bi-weekly, but weekly is going to come after, you can use spaces before words to fudge it and to mess with it. So that's all the cons that I could come up with. They're all quite minor and quite pale in comparison to all the positives. We love GrownBy. We can answer any questions. I just wanted to give that sort of rough, quick look at some of the ways that we set things up and make it work for us. So
awesome. Thank all three of you for that very robust presentation. We'll head into the Q&A portion of our workshop, but first I do want to introduce Kara, or allow Kara to introduce herself since she's joining us. If you've ever done a technical support thing with GrownBy, you've probably talked to her.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kara. I do support for GrownBy, and I work on some other projects also. I'm based in New York, too, and I am sorry to have missed part of this, but I had back-to-back meetings, so I'm glad to be here.
That was awesome. Or thanks for introducing yourself. You're awesome, Kara. I want to open the floor now to everybody who's attending. You know, we really envision these workshops as actual grower circles, not just grower presentations. So we are interested to hear your thoughts. If you have like questions about the platform, if there are, you know, if you have questions about specific things to do with your farm, if you have feedback or anything, it's open to you. James.
Oh, James, can you guys hear him?
No.
Let's
hear us
see.
now?
Yeah, we can
There
hear
you
you.
go.
Okay. We're James and Rosie. We're in Lafayette, Indiana. We're in our second year. We haven't switched or started a CSA model yet. We still got to make sure we can grow everything we can grow before we start promising it to people. Can you talk a little bit about why GrownBy would work for us? We sell to our plan is to sell to restaurants primarily. There's a couple that are just a few miles from our house. So we're going to talk to them next week, and then we do some random farmers markets as well.
I can take that. Kara, you might have some thoughts on that too. I think that what we've observed so far with the farms that have joined is that GrownBy is very scalable. So we have some folks who are like more or less growing in their backyard, and then we have, you know, and have maybe 25 members, or are doing there's a really terrific farm that just like actually a couple of farms just do like on their street neighborhood deliveries, a la carte items, not really CSA at all, which is maybe where closer to where you are, and they've been able to use GrownBy really successfully. The nice thing is there's no startup fees, so you can because you're paying your service fees with all of, you know, your actual sales, you know that you will have sales to support what you're paying for the platform, and hopefully your customers will pitch in. So far about, I don't know where we are now, but last time I looked, it was like almost 60% or more of our customers were paying our fees for us, which is awesome. So I think just the cost of it and the scalability of it is helpful. So once you have if you build your product catalog in GrownBy, you can just continue to grow it. And when we were first setting up, it was a lot more work, but now it's just, we just update our products, or, you know, maybe we'll do something new from year to year, but like you're kind of done. Varick's like, no, you're not done. The main thing is the work is actually working with the customers, which is never going to go away, like somebody's special situation, or you know, somebody who really doesn't use, you know, feel comfortable with technology that needs, you know, some extra assistance, or whatever. There's all kinds of, or inventory changes or whatnot. But I think, you know, when you start with GrownBy, you can save a lot of time as the years go by, as you're growing your farm operation. It's very flexible. You can do a la carte items if you want to, you know, send your shop to a local chef. You can have all sorts of buying options. So you can have something that would be at a retail price point up to more of a wholesale price point if you want to sell, a bulk bin or something like that. All of that is possible. We are at some point down the road definitely going to have some additional, more advanced wholesale features, but you can use GrownBy for wholesale right now, and you'll have the single storefront.
And I would also love to just quickly add that we had a grower circle a couple of months ago with a farmer in Oregon, and he was saying he just does sort of deliveries to people in his neighborhood. And he's like, it's great because if I have 10 bunches of cilantro, I can sell all 10 bunches of cilantro. I think in some ways sort of scalable. It's like if you have a very large farm and you just have an extra 400 pounds of carrots, you can figure out a way to sell those 400 pounds of carrots. And if you just have 6 bunches of cilantro, you can figure out a way to potentially, if you have a customer base, sell, actually move the stuff you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can really feel like a benefit, both financially. I mean, maybe 6 bunches of cilantro, not a huge financial boost, and also just emotionally feeling like you are in your first year and you're able to not end up wasting the stuff you're working to grow.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no,
I'll just
that's
add
great.
one other thing. I talked primarily about the CSAs, of course, and that'll set up. But we also use our shop to do more sort of one-time purchases, even directed towards our CSA members. Like last summer, there was a period of time where there were, an abundance of tomatoes, and sometimes people like to can or make sauce. So we were offering a one-time, you can buy a 10-pound box of tomatoes and it'll come down on the truck with your CSA, or you can pick it up at the farm. But we were able to sort of fit that into our shop and make that, it's a separate type of setup than a CSA setup, but it's still, and you can do that short term and do it as soon as it's ready. And, you could let people order up until the night before and just put however many you needed on the truck the next morning. So I know that what I was talking about was mostly CSAs, but there's definitely lots of other functionality.
Yeah, we have another question. Also, I would the one sort of little feature add too is you can hide and unhide products. So you can have you can add your whole season's worth of products at the beginning of the year, but not have a cluttered shop, or give your customers the idea that certain things are available when they're not. Kelsey, we'll get to you in a moment, but we had a question in the chat from a little while ago. Ken asked if someone could speak to the significance of pickup points as opposed to on-farm pickup. How do you choose pickup points? What are the pickup points received for their service, etc.?
So in our case, we have grown to have a lot of pickup points over the years, but they're all very much each one's very unique. We have churches, synagogues, bars, parks, community gardens,
Libraries,
a library, a museum. They're pretty
Workplace.
eclectic.
Yeah.
And each one has kind of been its own thing. In general, when we offer a CSA pickup point, we try and work with a community group, especially in the city, because they're the ones with connections within the neighborhood who can help us find a place and who can reach out to people. And when we have a community group that has a pretty big CSA, 50 or more members, we usually give them 2 free shares to compensate them for that. There's some other things that we offer, there's a community garden where we pay them a rental fee for their programming, things like that. But I know some farms also use members homes, and sometimes it's their garage or whatever as a pickup point, and compensate them with a free share or something like that. What have you seen, Kara and Lindsey?
Well, I just wanted to mention Just Food also, which we already mentioned earlier, was pretty instrumental, which is an organization in New York City and helping us connect with communities that were interested in hosting a CSA site. So that our New York City sites, many of them sort of got going, and with some assistance from that organization. I guess I would just say the upstate sites, like that are closer to the farm, some of those have been started more kind of like as a service to the place where we're delivering. So for instance, the library, from what I gathered, they're just really thrilled to have host a CSA site and be sort of part of the local food system, and it brings people to the library. So that's like our exchange. In the case of the workplace where we deliver, the owner of this business wanted to offer CSA shares to his employees as a benefit of working at this company. So we do a delivery of so many shares each year there. So some of the sites are really community driven, like we need more fresh food in our neighborhood, and we're willing to volunteer if you can sort of make this work for us. And why? I mean, they volunteer and it's an exchange, with a CSA share or whatnot. But then other sites, it feels much more like a service that we're providing.
Unless, Kara, do you have any thoughts on that?
I have a bunch of really practical thoughts, and I'm going to put them in the chat, like parking and highway access, and
there's a lot of
bridges high enough for your truck to go under. But I will put those in the chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the library is like a dream because they have tables and it's indoors, and the parking lot in New York City is like, how many tickets am I going to get this week? And anyways, logistics are important.
Kelsey.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. And I'm going to apologize because I had a hard time logging in. And so I don't know if this was already covered. But I'm curious about, like you were talking about scaling things up. What are the possibilities of using this platform for a food hub?
I think as we've learned, food hubs have very different models. If you are doing a CSA from your food hub, you could use GrownBy for that. It also sort of depends on sort of how the food hub would be structured, and we could have a longer conversation about that. And you can feel free to reach out to me or Kara, anyone on our team. It really depends on the needs of the food hub, I would say.
So this app is more geared towards CSA versus like individual custom orders. Is that what it?
Yeah, it can do a la carte weekly orders, or it can do CSAs on subscription. I guess I just meant we have talked to some food hubs that are looking for a way to buy food from multiple farms and take inventory from multiple farms, and sort of it's just kind of a different situation than most farms are in. And so that model, I don't think we serve particularly well yet. But if you are looking to sell a la carte each week to have people log onto your shop and make purchases with either a custom order or on subscription, we do that very well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next in line is Chris.
Hi, how are you? I was just starting to enter some stuff into the site. I was wondering is there a shipping option anywhere? Like I have the market pickups, but we're a meat producer. I was just looking if there was a way to put in the option for someone to order for shipping.
Yeah, we've been working on shipping for a while. I'm not exactly certain when we will release that, but it is like in development. I'll say we have a number of farms. One is a Sleeping Lion farm, which is Mike Parker's farm, who is one of the co-founders of Farm Generations, and he does shipping and uses GrownBy for that, even though we don't totally support that as of yet in the way we'd like to. So we would be happy to connect you with Mike or provide more explanation as to how that can work.
Okay, I'll get it all built out and for the pickup locations and just wait for that add-on. Thank you.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks, Chris.
James. You're inaudible again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, we've got some speakers plugged in, and if you haven't plugged in, you can't hear anything. We had two questions. Does it send notifications to our clients like what's available, or like each week, or do we have to send an email that directs them to the app?
So the app, anytime they check it, they'll see what's available, right? Depending on your inventory, depending on the dates of your availability, that type of thing. GrownBy does not at this point, and this is something that we could consider adding. We've talked about it, but haven't done it as of yet. Something that just tells your customer this is available now. What we do and what most farms do, and what we've I guess. And how we direct farms now is to send marketing emails yourself. We send automatic notifications when somebody places an order, when somebody makes a payment, when somebody has a pickup. Like, we send lots of notifications, both push notifications and email notifications. But when it comes to like selling what you have, like your beautiful products and your CSA shares and the experience, like, we can't do that as well as you can. So it's really your customers want to hear from you. So what we do have is an easy way to quickly like export the emails of all of your customers. You can, like, what we do is we throw that into MailChimp. We're now using, I guess, another service for email, but and then we send a weekly email with recipes and this is what's in your share this week, that type of thing for our CSA members. So that sort of like personalized message about like what's happening on the farm this week, I would absolutely recommend that. I know it can be a lot of work for farms, but like that is why people join CSAs. That's why they shop from you, because they love your story and they love what you're producing, and like those emails really do mean a lot.
Okay, and then sorry, can I ask one more?
I was just going to add on to that for that question, just to that, like, as far as our email exports go too, you can target different groups of your customer base with your emails. You can get all your previous people who bought shares previously. You can also target the customers who buy additional items week to week, depending on what you want to do, if you want to get more in depth with your marketing outreach.
Okay. How does the payments work? So it's the person has to have the app, correct? And then is their credit card information stored on there, or do they have to enter it every time they purchase something?
So GrownBy, you don't have to have the app. You can use mobile web, or you can use it on a desktop. The app is a really nice experience because you get those push notifications, which you will not receive if you don't download the app on your phone. We always encourage people to download the app. It's just easier to have that. But payments, we accept credit card, and we can accept offline payments too. And very soon, very soon, we will also allow SNAP EBT payments on GrownBy for authorized farms, which we will be talking a lot more about in the future. But essentially, when somebody as a shopper joins GrownBy, they create an account, just like you create an account. And when they check out their first time, they do add a credit card payment method, and that is saved in their account. So if they check out at my farm the first time, they add that credit card, and then if they go back into GrownBy and they find your farm, that credit card is already saved in their account, and they can save multiple payment methods if they'd like. They can also, if you enable it, not all farms accept offline payments, but if you want to accept offline payments, you certainly can. You just enable that, and then they can also additionally select pay offline, and then in that case, they get an invoice, and then they need to send you a check or give you cash at the market or whatnot. But most people really appreciate the convenience, of course, of being able to just pay immediately.
Definitely, yeah, and that's really helpful as a selling point. And so if we do farmers markets, though, it could be random strangers you want your clientele, of course, but if it's random strangers coming up, those offline payments via like Square, is that like the best way to do it? I don't think unless we can, sorry to cut you off, unless we can type in unless we would type in the credit card number of each person, would that be the way to do it?
So you would want to use GrownBy at the market to collect payments?
If it's possible, what do you think is the best way to go about doing that?
So you could use the we'd be happy to demo it for you. We have a new order creator where you could accept payments at the market in that way. And you would need to enter a card number for those customers at market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, so we are at time. There's still one more question in the queue, but if you guys have anywhere else to be, you are always free to go, but you are definitely free to go now. I'm just going to quickly add, before we get to this last question, the links to my Calendly and Kara's Calendly. So if you want to schedule a one-on-one demo with either of us to get into greater depth for your farm specific needs, you can use these links to register with us, and you'll also get a follow-up email with those links in a little bit. The last question that we have was from Kelsey, which Lindsey, you touched on, which is is SNAP available as a form of payment?
So yes, SNAP will be available in the future. We are in the final stages of testing with USDA right now. It's been over a year testing and work to really build to the very strict specification that you would expect from offering such a payment method. So we're like almost there. And if you want more information about that, please follow up with us, and we're happy to provide it. My understanding is immediately we will be able to serve farms that are authorized first as you have to be a SNAP authorized retailer, and then you can be authorized for SNAP online. And when you get through that process, then we enable your account on GrownBy, and then you can accept EBT online. So that is coming. Kelsey, I'm only mentioning this because farmers markets, basically to use SNAP Online will be free under a grant right now through GrownBy. Farmers markets aren't yet sort of included in that initial cohort, and I guess probably food hubs, depending on how you're structured, again, may or may not be covered. So that would be a question for our partner MarketLink that is managing that grant and is also helping farms get through the authorization process with USDA. That's probably more of an answer than you wanted, but yes, that's kind of like the nature of the beast. It's pretty complex, but we are like moving through the process as quickly as we can, and we are so proud to be able to be actually the first platform offering SNAP Online for farms.
So basically what you said as an authorized farm is I would have to go through the same process myself as an individual farm before I can accept it through the app.
That's correct. Yeah. So you have to be a SNAP authorized retailer, and then you have to do a second authorization, which is a SNAP online retailer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not that much more, but there's like some additional steps that they take, and then they look at your shop, and it's kind of, it'll be similar to how you get authorized for retail, but rather than having a brick and mortar shop, you have an online storefront.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I guess that brings us to our closing, unless anybody has any last minute questions. I really appreciate all of you for taking the time to join us. Kara, Eric, Varick, Lindsey, and BR for presenting and supporting this workshop. Again, if you want to catch up with one of us more directly, you can use the Calendly links that I posted in the chat. You're also going to email with those, or if you go to grownby.app or farmgenerations.coop and click the demo buttons, you can schedule a demo that way also. So hope to see you soon, and everybody have a safe rest of your evening. Thanks again for joining us.
Really nice to see you all. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for
Thanks,
hosting
Eric.
us.
Good job. Good job, Mark. Bye, Kara.